Hello everybody. This is going to be hopefully a brief video, on how to solve a problem from the Kaplan Math Quiz number 3 involving probability. Okay, so let's look at this for a second. We start off with this chart here of, it looks like it's dealing with a study of people who applied to work at some sort of bank, and we break this down by gender and age, male, age this and female that, and then in the further categories, those who applied, who were qualified, and who was actually hired to work. Okay, and so our question number 8 is, it says if 2 applicants are chosen at random for a follow-up interview, which expression gives the probability that neither of the candidates was hired? All right, so let's not overthink this. The basic idea behind probability, let's put P for probability. Probability is always going to be desired outcome. It's written as a fraction, always. And I know my handwriting is terrible, but hopefully you can follow what I'm doing here. Desired outcome over total possible outcomes. I'll just say total outcomes. Okay? So let's just think about this. We are asked to find, let's break this down just for a moment. Let's just start with one candidate. Let's supposing we wanted to find what is the probability that we randomly select a candidate who was not hired. Well, how would we figure this out? Okay, well, if our total pool, the outcome, the total things that were happening were candidates, right? How many different candidates were there? Well, let's think about this. It's all these candidates that were applying for this job, right? There were 82 males between this age, 47 to that age, and females here, and so on. So I'm a little bit lazy, and I'm just going to use a calculator for this. But if I added up all these, let's see, we would have a total pool of 82 plus 47 plus 74 plus 51. Okay, so that means there was a total pool of candidates, total outcomes, people applying for this job was 254. So let's write that down for a minute. Okay. Well then, let me ask this. Then it's saying, what is the probability that out of that pool of 254, the person that we randomly selected was not hired? Well, the easiest way to figure that out would just be, well, let's count how many people were in fact hired. That would be this column right here. Out of 254, let's see, it looks like, what is that? 12 plus 6 plus 11 plus 7. 36 people were hired. Okay, so I'm going to just put that down. Hired is equal to 36. Well, if the desired outcome, or the ones that we're interested in, are the ones that were not hired, and there were 254 people in all that were applying for this job, hopefully it makes sense that the not hired would just simply be 254 minus 36. There was a time in my life when I could do that in my head. Well, you know what? Actually, yes, I can. Yes, I can. Hold on. I can do this. That'd be 218. Yeah, I can do this. I still got it. Okay. Okay, check me on the calculator. Just make sure that I'm not wrong here. But it should be that the total number that were not hired would be 218. All right? So, we know that if we randomly selected one person who was not hired, it should be the probability of selecting that person would be 218 out of 254. So we just pause here just for a moment. That tells us right off the bat, C and D have to be out. That doesn't fit. Okay, that doesn't give us that 218 over 254 probability that we're looking for. So we know the answer has to be either A or B. Okay, well, it was highlighted for some reason in green that this is the correct answer, but we'll explore why that would be in just a moment. But if you notice, okay, so both of these are candidates, right? We have 218 over 254, 218 over 254. The difference is that this one has us do 218 and then times 217, and this one has us do 218 times 218. Let's break this down just for a moment. Okay. In terms of probability, one of the most important things you have to remember is that anytime that you see an and, all right, so if we have something and something else, that translates to, in probability terms, is multiply probabilities. So if you think about it, we have 2 applicants are chosen, so we want to pick one and another one, right? And we want both. Think of it and or slash both. Kind of means the same thing. That we want to first pick somebody who is not hired by the bank, and then we want to pick another person who is also not hired by the bank. Always what you do there is that you are going to take the individual probabilities of finding these particular people and multiply them together. Okay? Simple as that. Well, you might think to yourself, okay, well, the answer should be B, right? Because we figured out that the probability of finding somebody who is not hired by the bank is 218 over 254. And we want to find another person who's not hired by the bank, so that should also presumably be 218 over 254. So boom and boom, it should be answer choice B. Well, here's the little trap. It's not answer choice B because if you pick somebody who's not hired by the bank, right, you pluck this person out. So remember, there's a total of 218 people who are not hired by the bank. So if I take one of them, I take one out, okay, well then how many are left if I'm plucking the second person out? Hopefully you can kind of see this. It would go down by 1, right, because we already removed one person out of that pool of the 218 that were not hired, so now there's only 217 left that were not hired. So that must mean the second probability, so the first probability, put this in orange, first probability of getting somebody who was not hired by the bank would be there's 218 possible people out of a total of 254, so there's our odds of picking one of those not hired. Okay, but since we know we're trying to find another person, therefore it's going to be multiply those together. But then if I pull out one person who's not hired, the remaining number of people who weren't hired by the bank would now be 217, right? Over the total of 254. So that would be my probability. I'm not going to calculate this, and frankly, I don't care. These numbers are ridiculous. If you feel like it, plug this in your calculator. But that would be our answer. Okay, so just as a quick summary, what we're doing here is we are calculating the total number of people in our pool, which would be all of the people that applied to work at this bank. We were interested in the ones that were not hired, and we figured out from here in the green that that would be 218 people. Okay, so, but we were trying to find the probability of finding 2 people that were not hired. So that would mean the first person, probability of finding them would be, there would be 218 people out of 254 that were not hired. And then we know we have to multiply because we're doing another probability. But in this case, once we pulled out the person, one of the people that was not hired, then we're down to 217 people left that were not hired. So our probability would be this. Hopefully that made sense. If not, let me know and I'll elaborate further. But the answer would be